The lights of American television have rarely burned brighter than they do right now, and at the very center of it all stands a cartoon that refuses to bow down. For more than 2 decades, South Park has been tearing apart politicians, celebrities, and corporations with satire sharper than a knife. But season 27 is different. It's louder, it's angrier, and more than ever before, it feels like open political warfare. The latest target? Donald Trump, his inner circle, and even the institutions that support him. It began like a spark but quickly turned into a firestorm. When Paramount signed Trey Parker and Matt Stone to a staggering $1.5 billion deal, the message was clear. These two creators were untouchable. With 50 more episodes guaranteed, Parker and Stone didn't just have creative freedom, they had immunity. That protection meant no advertiser backlash, no executive hesitations, no corporate limits. They could go nuclear on anyone they wanted. And the first missile they launched was aimed directly at Trump's orbit. From the very first episode of the new season, the stakes were higher than ever. The White House was reportedly watching, and the reaction was immediate. Anger, furious anger. Inside Trump's circle, the satire wasn't brushed off as a simple joke. It was viewed as an attack, a deliberate attempt to humiliate him in front of millions. And humiliation was exactly what South Park delivered. The first episode of season 27 set the tone. Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk were all dragged into South Park's chaotic world. This wasn't light parody. It was brutal, it was personal, and it was designed to sting. Trump's relationship with Satan returned as a grotesque gag, paired with a relentless running joke about his masculinity. The tiny insult wasn't just crude humor, it was targeted satire, cutting deep into carefully built image of dominance, power, and control of Trump. According to insiders, staffers inside the White House weren't laughing. They were rattled. For a politician whose brand relies on strength, being reduced to a childish insult on national television was no small blow. But South Park didn't stop with Trump. Kristi Noem, now in charge of Homeland Security, became the season's breakout caricature. On screen, she was presented as Ice Barbie, a grotesque exaggeration of her own real-life anecdotes about shooting her dog and goat. South Park escalated those headlines into a full-blown nightmare sequence where Noem brags about killing puppies with a smile on her face. The satire was vicious but precise. Noem's image as a tough conservative fighter was twisted into a portrait of cruelty, stripping away her polish to reveal brutality underneath. To drive the point further, her animated face began literally sliding off like a Halloween mask, mocking her public identity as a carefully constructed facade. Her real-life response? Outrage. She denounced South Park as lazy and petty, but every angry word only fueled the fire. Within hours, memes of melting Barbie faces and puppy jokes flooded Twitter and TikTok, proving once again that Parker and Stone know exactly how to bait their targets. If Kristi Noem was the lightning rod, ICE itself became the circus. In the episode, ICE isn't depicted as a powerful agency, but as a joke, a place where anyone, even South Park's bumbling school counselor Mr. Mackey, could walk in and get hired without vetting or training. The gag spiraled further when the show resurrected the infamous basement gamer from their World of Warcraft parody, now dressed in an ICE uniform. The implication was brutal. If you can push buttons on a keyboard, you're qualified to enforce immigration laws. Beneath the absurdity was a biting truth. For years, critics have accused ICE of reckless raids, poor training, and questionable judgment. South Park condensed all of those criticisms into a single running gag, stripping the agency of fear and authority, and reducing it to slapstick incompetence. Trump, in the background, cheered it all on. His support for ICE became part of the parody itself, a desperate man clinging to chaos, celebrating dysfunction as if it were strength. When South Park turned its focus on Mar-a-Lago, the satire cut to the bone. Trump's Florida resort wasn't drawn as a symbol of wealth or status. Instead, it became a tacky, gold-plated carnival where excess dripped from every wall. Epstein references popped up in every hallway, grotesque caricatures filled every corner, and he himself was portrayed as nothing more than a clown presiding over his gilded palace. And then came the humiliation that made headlines worldwide, the extended tiny gag. For other shows, that kind of mockery might have crossed a line. But for Parker and Stone, it was just another Tuesday. Their strategy is simple: attack the image, not just the policies. And in this case, that image has always been built on intimidation, dominance, and power. By shredding it, they turned the former president into a punchline. Trump's allies didn't escape the satire. J.D. Vance, shown as his vice president, became a desperate yes-man, portrayed as weak, submissive, and pathetically loyal. His portrayal wasn't of a leader, but of a sycophant, clinging to Trump's coattails for survival. Charlie Kirk, meanwhile, became the show's walking advertisement. In between chaos and political arguments, Kirk interrupted with fake supplement ads, turning him into a parody of a late-night infomercial host. For a political influencer who thrives on being taken seriously, the portrayal was devastating. By mocking Vance and Kirk, South Park widened the battlefield. It wasn't just about Trump anymore. It was about dismantling the entire ecosystem around him. The loyalty, the propaganda, the opportunism. Here's where the story takes a twist. Paramount, the studio funding South Park's rampage, actually has history with Donald Trump. Years ago, they paid him $16 million to settle a lawsuit. They even poured millions more into ads featuring him. Trump wasn't just a political figure. He was once a business partner. Now Paramount is bankrolling his televised humiliation. With Parker and Stone holding that $1.5 billion contract, the network has effectively handed them the keys to torch Trump week after week. It's poetic irony. Trump once cashed Paramount's checks. Now, Paramount is cashing in on mocking him. One of South Park's greatest strengths has always been timing. Episodes often air just as scandals break, maximizing relevance and outrage. Season 27 followed the same playbook. Episodes mocking ICE, Nome, and Mar-a-Lago aired strategically around political flashpoints, daring Trump to respond. If he lashed out, South Park gained new material. If he stayed silent, the silence itself became mockery. Either way, Parker and Stone controlled the narrative. This mastery of the attention economy is why South Park has survived while others faltered. Where late-night hosts tread carefully and other shows avoid controversy, Parker and Stone dive straight into it, knowing outrage fuels virality. The survival of South Park isn't an accident. Networks cancel shows for offending advertisers or crossing political lines. But South Park thrives precisely because it does what others won't. Epstein jokes, ICE parodies, this humiliation. These are the taboos that keep audiences glued to their screens, rewarding Parker and Stone with loyalty, memes, and viral clips. At a time when much of television is sanitized, South Park remains one of the last uncensored voices in pop culture. It doesn't just mock, it dismantles. It doesn't just parody, it rewrites reputations. At the end of the day, South Park's latest season isn't just about laughs. It's about power. By dragging Trump, Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, Charlie Kirk, ICE, and even Mar-a-Lago into their animated battlefield, Parker and Stone are redefining what political satire looks like in America. They're turning real-world power into playground mockery, stripping away the illusion of strength and leaving only ridicule behind. Politicians hate it, studios tolerate it, viewers can't stop watching it, and that's the ultimate punchline. South Park isn't just another cartoon, it's a weapon, one funded by Paramount, sharpened by satire, and aimed squarely at the most powerful figures in America.